Who's got it better than us?
Nobody! Robert is being chased, thrown on the run, and it is caught. Touchdown, Keenan Allen. What a great...
My goal is not to break you. My goal is to make you harder to break.
Comes back, number 6.
Huge sack by Joey Bosa.
Touchdown! 90-yard touchdown!
Off at the 8-yard line by Derwin James.
Sets his speed, takes a shot downfield, has Knighton. Caught! Touchdown! Chargers!
Boys, grab your lunch boxes and go attack this game with an enthusiasm unknown to mankind.
Yes, hello. Welcome to another episode of the Thunder Down Under Chargers podcast. Slightly different episode today. As you can see, I'm rolling solo. Obviously, I missed out on the last pod, which was a fun crossover. And, you know, some people have been saying, Jack, where are you? We miss you. So I'm here. We had a bit of a scheduling issue. We've got Garrett Sisti on in our guest series coming up. We've also confirmed that Alex Insdorf is coming in to have a chat with us in a couple of weeks' time as well. So all I wanted to do was just get on here for half an hour or so and have a chat with y'all about something that I've been thinking about. Obviously, you can find me at TDU Jack on X, at TDU_Chargers on X. You can also now find me writing some articles on the much lauded, vaunted, dare I say, Stormcloud. Kyle is doing a fantastic job at running that website. There's some awesome content up there. I'll be writing articles, one or two every month or so, think pieces, extended think pieces. Alistair would be very proud of me because I've been using a lot of data analytics and getting sort of au fait with a bit of AI, running through some algorithms to just sort of justify some positions. But today I'm here to talk about potential versus actual gradings of the Chargers positional groups. Now, what does that actually mean? I guess at this time of the year, we have had some evidence of how the players are playing. Yes, they don't have pads on, but by golly, do they have their shirts tucked in at Chargers training, and they do things exactly. It's all about the details, as we have seen. But we just need to perhaps temper some expectations because there's a lot of talk about the potential of what the Chargers are going to do this year. But I think there also needs to be some grounding in reality, perhaps. So in the world of teaching, one of the most dangerous words you can say to a student is, you have so much potential, you just need to go out and grab it. Because it's very ephemeral. It's hard to grasp. It's hard to actually understand because potential is not necessarily based on evidence a lot of the time. It's just based on thought and perhaps positivity, which is great, but I think we need to have some actual understanding here as well. So these are my opinions. Think of this as a bit of an audio article as such. I was going to write it for Stormcloud, but thought we'd give this a go. So if you do enjoy this content and it's a little bit interesting, as I said, it's shorter form. You are going to have to be listening to my voice for the whole podcast. I'm sorry. But yeah, let me know what you think. And I'd love to hear what people think about my potential grades versus my actual grades and whether you agree or disagree with them. So I hope that's clear as mud. But let's start with perhaps one of the stronger positional groups, and that is at quarterback. We all know that Justin Herbert is a top quarterback in the league. We all know that Justin Herbert is on his 7th or 8th, I start to lose count now, offense in combining both his college and his professional career. I have said on this podcast that Justin Herbert needs to put his big boy pants on now that Keenan Allen and Mike Williams are out the door. That was misinterpreted slightly to perhaps some people thought that I was saying that Justin Herbert hasn't been good. Not at all. I'm not saying that at all. It's perhaps more in the context of becoming a leader and sort of taking this team by the scruff of the neck and making it his. Now, it's been challenging for him to do that. Not only was he sort of thrust into the role before or the starting role when the good old needle went straight into the lung of a quarterback, putting him into against the Kansas City Chiefs in the middle of COVID. So not the best start in the world, and I mean not necessarily best starters in the how he actually played, but in terms of him becoming a leader. He wasn't drafted; he was told he was going to sit for a year. But I think we now found ourselves, or we find ourselves with a Justin Herbert that is now a leader. I think we do find ourselves with a quarterback who is making it his own. He's not going to be the rah-rah, get up, get on my back and let's go in terms of verbal. He's not going to be the Jameis Winston eating fingers at the start and trying to get his team ramped up, I don't think. I think he'll do it in his own unique way. But the potential here for Justin Herbert, I believe, and we're giving out grades here, I forgot to say that, the potential for Justin Herbert in 2024, I think, is an A+. Now, PFF would have him ranked 11th out of the 38 based on his season performance last year. But clearly he was playing hurt, fractured finger, ribs. He was getting absolutely trounced. His receivers were getting injured left and right. We didn't know what was going on. He was being put in bad situations. If there's one thing that Harbaugh and co won't do, is they won't put Justin Herbert in bad situations. Are we still going to see Justin Herbert have to win games? Sure, I think we will, but I don't think it's going to be as dire as perhaps what we've seen in the past in his early career. So my potential grade for Justin Herbert is A+. And I think that most people would agree with me on that one. Is he a top 3 quarterback? Is he a top 5 quarterback? That debate rages and rages, and that'll change every year, right? But I think he has the potential this year with a balanced offense to be a top 5 quarterback. Now, his actual grade, and I'm going off mainly PFF because that's what I've got in front of me here. His actual grade and where he starts the season, I think Justin Herbert starts at an A level. Okay, so we're looking, the difference between the potential and the actual is very small. It's a plus sign, which is great. That's what you're kind of looking for. You're looking for less variance in your potential versus your actual. So Justin Herbert, I think, has the potential to be an A+ quarterback this year and perhaps even an early MVP candidate, depending on how the first 6 games go. I think we might not see the giant numbers from him, but we will see efficiency. We will see no turnovers, and we will see far more command and far more calmness from our big signal caller. All right, let's get into the next positional group. We're staying on offense, so we'll go offense, then we'll go through defense. Let's look at our wide receivers. I noted before that Mike Williams and Keenan Allen have disappeared. That is a lot of yards of offense. That is also Justin Herbert's safety blanket in Keenan Allen. It is Mike Williams' big body catching strong in the air. Did he ever really live up to the number 7 overall pick? I'm not sure if he did, but he became a much-loved Charger because of the way that he played. For me, anyway, he did put his body on the line. We'll see how he goes in his new digs in New York. But this is when the potential versus the actual starts to get a little, wider. When we go through this list, we look at Darius Davis, Quinton Johnson, DJ Shark. Who have we got? We've got Cornelius Johnson, Brendan Rice, Lad McConkey, Simi Fajoko's still sitting there, Joshua Palmer, and then we've got guys like Praise, Olatoke, I think that's how you pronounce it. Alistair, sorry, that probably wasn't the best pronunciation I could have done, but I'm trying to be serious here. We're in the classroom with Teach. We got Jalen Johnson there as well. We got Leon Johnson the third. A lot of Johnsons flying around in this wide receiver room. When you look at it on paper, it doesn't look great because we've got Quinton Johnson as essentially another rookie. Hopefully he's worked on his catching. We've got DJ Shark to come in. He's the most experienced player in that wide receiver room. We've obviously got Brendan Rice, Lad McConkey. We're talking a lot of potential about these guys. Who knows what Lad McConkey's going to do? Where he's going to line up? Where they're going to put him? Are they going to put him outside mainly or inside? That remains to be seen. In the slot. But, when I think about the potential of this group, I think the ceiling, and I might be being a bit harsh here, but I think the ceiling of this group is a B plus. And I'm going to put that in there purely because when you look at it, there's just not a lot of experience. You've got DJ Shark as the most experienced, and then you've got Joshua Palmer. And all of these guys who actually have a rating, the only ratings from PFF have Quinton Johnson at 94th out of 128, DJ Shark at 89th out of 128, Joshua Palmer at 63rd of 128. And that's really it in terms of rankings for PFF. So when you think of that, I have to probably temper my potential expectations for this group. If they can get a B plus grade, maybe perhaps moving to an A minus, I think that is going to be absolute wizardry by the coaching staff. Now, that's my potential grade. The actual grade, and remember, I'm looking at what I see on paper and what we have seen in the past. And if Joshua Palmer is going to be that receiver, he really hasn't. I mean, when he came in, when Keenan Allen and Mike Williams were injured, he did okay, but his body is letting him down a bit, I think, for a number one receiver. Hopefully he gets that fixed. DJ Shark, I think he's going to be good for, for a couple of games, maybe a handful even, but he's not your number one receiver. Quinton Johnson, we all know, much maligned. I think there's potential there. And Lad McConkey, who knows? Brendan Rice, who knows? Cornelius Johnson, who knows? So I think when we're looking at the actual grading, and we've got to be true to ourselves here, I think the actual grading of this positional group is a C. And I might be being a bit harsh, but very happy for that to rise up, right? So when we're looking at that, I think this is one of the positional groups that needs the most growth, that needs the most work, because we're looking at a potential grade of B plus, maybe even A minus from a C. There's got to be a lot of work done. Can they do it? Sure. I have faith in the coaching staff now. And I have faith in Justin Herbert. These guys are going to be relying on Justin Herbert to have command of the offense, but they also need to get to the right spots, I think, especially early on in the season. So wide receiver group, that's where I'm sitting at. The actual grade's pretty low, C, standard. I think it might even be slightly below standard where we start when we start the season. It's probably in the latter half of the league, but by the end, who knows where they're going to be. Let's keep moving on with the offense. We're looking at the running backs here. And who do we have on the roster? Dotson is still sitting around. Kamani Vidal is still sitting there. J.K. Dobbins comes in. Gus Edwards comes in. And the now, relatively experienced or inexperienced Isaiah Spiller. You've got Jarrett Patterson sitting there too. So when I look at the potential for this group, again, I don't think it's anything more than a B to B plus. If anything, I'm going to say it's a B. There's nothing really in this group for me that stands out so much as a bell cow running back. And I know that perhaps that's not what Roman is looking for, is a bell cow but they are looking to perhaps spread the load. I think there is variation in the runners there. Do we have an Austin Eckler, that can get out in the flat and be that safety blanket for Justin Herbert that Eckler was for the last couple of years, and a guy that can do stuff after the catch or after breaking from the line of scrimmage and ducking and diving and pivoting? You're hoping that Kamani Vidal is that. You're perhaps hoping that J.K. Dobbins can get back to some of his best, but we know that J.K. Dobbins has, pretty serious injury history and comes with that baggage on his back. Gus Edwards is just your low, powerful bowling ball type, which we haven't had on, the Chargers for a while, which I'm really looking forward to seeing. And Isaiah Spiller, who knows what's going to happen here for a guy that's, going to be in his going into his fourth year or, I think it's his fourth year. Is it? Let's have a see. No, sorry, that's his run block. What am I looking? I think his third year. When was he drafted? 2022. So going into his third year, it's kind of like, well, Who are you, man? Who are you? And granted, I don't think he's been given a lot of opportunity with Eckler in the room historically. But who knows? So again, I think the potential grade for this is if this group is a B to B plus. I think the coaching staff are going to be doing a great job, and that this is also reliant on the offensive line. But we'll get into that a little later. So potential for me, I think if it's a B plus again. I think the room has a potential to be a B plus. I don't think it's an A plus or an A standard running back room at this point in time. The actual grade, again, I'm probably going to put a C plus in there. And the reason why it's a higher, perhaps than the wide receiver room, is that there is just you've got the Gus Edwards and the J.K. Dobbins, I guess, experience in there. So those, I believe, are going to take the majority of the carries. But who knows with Isaiah Spiller? You'd think that we'd know a little bit more about him, granted that he's been on the team for what seems like a long time. Hopefully he breaks out a little bit this year if he's given the chance. And who knows how Kamani Vidal is going to be used. Who knows if he's even going to sort of suit up in the first couple of weeks. So actual grade C+, potential grade B+. Tight end room. This is where things start to get perhaps a little more interesting. We've all heard how Hayden Hurst is, catching balls from Justin Herbert and how amazing it is, how experienced they are. They know the offense, from historically working with Roman and in this system. However, you look at players like Stone Smart, Donald Parham Jr., Disley, and you've got Benson and Hines sitting there, who are pretty much just roster fillers at this point in time. Stone Smart, he's more of a wide receiver, I would almost say, rather than a tight end. Didn't really see too much of it. Can make a couple of good catches, but is he going to be a reliable? No, not really. He's ranked 70th out of 72 from his 2023 season. Donald Parham Jr., red zone threat. I think Roman's going to enjoy working with him in special situations. But is Donald Parham, the health, the head, the mind, which is really unfortunate, concussion, is he going to be anything more than just a red zone jump up, rebound, get the ball presence? I don't know. Hayden Hurst and Will Disley both come with history. Both are a little older. Both come with some veteran presence. But realistically, are they going to be solid? Disley is ranked 15th from 72 in the tight end room. I think they're going to mainly help out in the blocking game. Are they going to be active in the passing game? Who knows? But when you look at that group on paper, I think you've got to go, and I'm going to go actual grade first. I think that's probably a D plus. I think it's below average and it's below standard. If I'm being truthful, when you look, we can have all the discussions about how good they look and how well they know the offense and things like that. That tight end room is a D plus for me in the actual potential. I'm going to go B minus. Okay, they have the potential to be strong, and I think where that potential lies is in how well they execute Roman's running game, because I think that's what they're there for, especially Hurst and Disley. They're there to help in the run game. They're there because they know the system relatively well. They are experienced. They're bigger guys. You're sitting in at 6'4". They're both over 240 pounds. So they are big guys. They will markedly help the edges of that offensive line to block and hopefully establish a solid running game. But any more than that, I'm not sure where there's going to be production. So I think there's going to have to be production elsewhere. So I'm saying a potential grade for the tight end room is a B plus. So that's actual. So this is the first group that I've put below standard. So they're below a C minus. They're at a D plus right now. Actual grade, they're a D plus. Potential grade, B minus. Maybe I'm being harsh there. I'll go B. Let's say that. I'll go B. If this group can execute a B, I think they're living up to their potential. Okie dokie. Let's get on to my favorite positional group now. Thank you very much if you're still with me. We're rolling in at 20 minutes now. I hope my voice isn't getting too arduous for you to listen. It is good to have. I need other people to sometimes question my thoughts. Andy and Alistair with their quips my way. I always enjoy that. But we'll see. We'll see how we've gone by the end of the episode. All right. No, I'm not going to break this down into center, guards, and tackles. I'm not going to go over every person we've got on the roster at the moment. I'm just going to go through the core guys. So first up, we've got Bradley Bozeman. Coming from Carolina, Kyle did a great think piece on Stormcloud. I added some analysis in there. The formatting went really weird. But what I actually looked at is that Bozeman actually had a decent season last year, given the organization that he was in and the absolute chaos that offensive line was. He was one of the better performers. So what I actually looked at is that if Bozeman plays at the same level that he did last year with better talent around him, he is actually going to be a half decent player. So all Bozeman needs to do is not even live up to his potential. He just needs to play like he did last year. He had one of his best rated years as a professional NFL player when he was playing with Roman. So hopefully he can get back up to that level. We've got Hymas sitting there. Leatherwood's a really interesting signing. We've got McFadden. We've got Jamari Sallia, Zion Johnson. I think you've got Trey Pipkins, who's still listed as a tackle, but has been kicked into guard. You've got and Rayshawn Slater, and Sorrell is still sitting there as the time of recording when I'm looking at this PFF. Some of these might change. So where does this group sit? Let's start with potential. I think this group has the potential. And I guess when I think about what is an A, I think an A has got to be a top 10 group in the league. Okay. A minus is anything sitting just outside the top 10. A plus is sitting top 5. So hence why I gave Justin Herbert a top 5. I'm not sure if this group has the experience yet to be a top 5 offensive line in the league. But I do think with the coaching and with the talent, especially the draft capital that has been spent on the offensive line here, I think this group can potentially be one of the strongest positional groups the Chargers have in 2024. So I'm going to give them an A. Hymas needs to come into his own. Sawyer, where he plays, is going to be an interesting one. Johnson needs to take a leap. The guy looks like a man mountain. He has tree trunks for arms. We know what we've got in Rayshawn Slater. I think he'll improve. Trey Pipkins, whether he's a good guard or not, remains to be seen. But it's going to be the balance. So the reason why I've got the potential grade here, I think all of these guys can pass block because over the last couple of years, that's really all they've been asked to do. They've been in really challenging situations. Justin Herbert has need to sling that thing. But the run game has almost been non-existent. Yeah, there have been flashes when Austin Eckler goes for 200 plus yards and things like that. But this group needs to be more balanced. So the potential right now, I think, is for them to be a top 10 offensive line in the league. But they've got to balance the pass versus run blocking. I think they can do that, especially with the coaching that we've got. When I look at the actual grade and when I really think about it, I think the only top tier player here is a Rayshawn Slater. And ever since that biceps injury and ever since there's that bit of commotion around coaching and not sure what we're doing, he has dropped off a little bit, I feel. So, I think he's probably the only top tier player that we have. He's probably a top 10 tackle. And depending on the year, I think, as he gets a little bit older, perhaps he will get into that top 5. People might ping me for that. But at the moment, based on 2023, he's, 17th out of 81 tackles in the league per PFF. The one thing that I haven't spoken about, and there's a reason why I haven't, is Joe Alt. So Joe Alt to me is where I've maybe pinged positional groups for having rookies in their group. And perhaps unproven guys. Joe Alt to me is a ready-made tackle. He is ready to go and he will start day 1, game 1, snap 1, and I don't think he will struggle that much. Yeah, there's going to be some speed issues. There's going to be some power issues, I think, early on, but he seems to me he's got the mind, he's got the size, he's got the ability to come in and anchor the other side opposite Rayshawn Slater. So given that, the interior and what happens is still a bit of a jumble, and that's why if there was a set guard position, and if there was a bit more and they had a bit more experience, I still think Zion Johnson is unknown. maybe when I say unknown, I don't mean it's not like we're not sure what we're going to get, but he could just, this is the time when bigger guys like him really step into their bodies, and that power really starts to translate into games. And I hope with a clearer direction and clearer coaching, he can really capitalize on what he has, which is that strong power. But and Bozeman, we don't know, Herbert hasn't played with Bozeman as of yet in a professional sense. I'm sure they've been training together. But because of that, I think there's an A actual on the anchors, but interior, I think it's a little weaker. Just because of that, a mix around. So I'm giving an actual grade of a B. Okay, I think this group is one of the more solid groups on paper at the moment. Actually. But their potential is A. I think their potential is a top 10 line in the league. Perhaps even, am I going to give them an A+ for potential? Maybe I am. Maybe I've talked myself into it. Okay, maybe I'm giving out my other A+ for potential grade. All right. Actual grade for the offensive line, B. Potential grade, A+. A+, because I think there's depth there. Really interested to see how McFadden, Leatherwood, Hymas, and Solier. I mean, that is deep. I mean, yes, Leatherwood has had his issues. McFadden is, going into his second year. Hymas, we're not sure where he sits, but for the first time, we've actually got some depth in that offensive line group, which is wonderful to see. So yes, I am going potential grade. Actual grade though, B. All right, let's move over to the other side of the ball. Let's start off with our interior defensive line. At the moment, what we're sitting, we've got Okoye, we've got Clark, we've got Matlock, we've got Hinton, we've got Fox, we've got Michael Mason, we've got Iboigbe, we've got Puna, we've got Obonya, and that's where it ends there. So, on paper right now, let's start with our actual. Because I think this is probably, for me, one of the weaker groups, if not the weakest. I think on paper right now, you'd have to say that this defensive line is a D. Like the interior defensive line, not going edges just yet, just bear with me. This interior defensive line on paper, the actual grade is a D. I think it's well below standard. I worry about some of the shape of the players on the line. I worry that they haven't played together. There was a big clean out from last year. I'm worried that they're, just with how leaky they're going to be in the run game, because this is a really unproven group. There hasn't been a lot of talk about them either. There hasn't been a lot of discussion in press conferences and things like that from my perspective. The best ranked player as of PFF on this is 77 out of 130, which is Morgan Fox. So actual grade, this is a D right now. And this is possibly the weakest. Well, we don't know just yet, but this is possibly the weakest group on our roster. And I think potential, when I look at it, I don't think there's a lot of potential here either. So I think potentially this group is a C at best. I think this group is a standard, is somewhere in the middle between 15 and 22nd, 23rd ranked for the season. Now, there are other things that are going to play into that and how well the edges play. We'll get to that just after this one. But, I don't really... We're really betting on some of these guys having, good years or developing. Obonya coming back after that knee injury. We've got to see something from him. Puna, we don't know what he's going to be like. He's a stouter, shorter guy. He's a bit more experienced, but, what's he going to be like? As a pro in Los Angeles. Iboigbe, people know my thoughts on Iboigbe. Let's hope that, he can do something at 6'5", 292, and the role that he's going to play. Morgan Fox is your interior pass rusher, I've always felt. I never thought he was great defending the run game. And then you've got Matlock, who kind of struggled last year when he was asked to do certain things. Flashed, of course, fine. But realistically, I feel like this is kind of the area that I would have liked to see maybe a little more focus on, either in the draft. I know Iboigbe was there, but maybe a little earlier on in the draft, but maybe something in free agency. or maybe this is a group that's going to be added to, because I just can't see this group being anything more than standard, which is a C. If they can reach a C, I think they're doing a great job with the talent that they've got. So overall, I think the actual grade of this group on paper is a D. The potential grade is a C. All right, let's go to another favorite group of mine. I think everyone's favorite group is, or one of the favorite groups on the team is going to be the edge room. They've stayed together, and we've added a couple of weapons as well, which is amazing. So obviously the big guys, Bosa and Mac, they are A+, your rushers. If Joey Bosa can get his body right, I hope he can. He's had some troubled, not only, physically, but also perhaps some character issues about the last couple of years. Hopefully with a stronger head coach, a coach that gets how to manage players' personalities, that I think he will, he will really thrive. This is the last kind of dance for Mac and Bosa. You've got Tully, who I think is going to take another step. He's going to be asked to do a little bit more, hopefully, rotation. We've got Bud Dupree coming in as that experienced guy. He will also, his press conference was wonderful, hearing him talk about how professional, Mac and Joey were, and, how much respect Tully has. He's just going to be that rotational pass rusher piece that I think is going to flash. Don't be surprised if he's going to have sort of like 6-ish sacks by the middle of the year, 6 to 8 sacks. I think that's going to be really interesting. You've got Rumpf sort of filling there. Whether he gets a lot of time, I'm not sure, but he's that bigger, longer guy, pass rusher, that normally take, or edge, I should say, that take a little while to develop. So if he's our fourth option, I think, or fifth option, should I say, I think that's where he should probably be. He should never have been a third, which he was in previous teams. Then we've got Jackson, we've got Morris Brash sort of rounding out that group. Now, I think the potential for this group is an A. I'm pinging them just a little bit because of the age of Mac, who completely defied his age last year and had, one of the best edge seasons I can ever remember. Joey Bosa, I just think his health. Tully, it's another year in. What's he going to do? Bud Dupree, is solid, but he's more of a piece rather than a foundation. So the potential grade, I think, is an A. If this group can be an A again, which I definitely think they can, I think it's an A. The actual grade, I'm gonna say it's a B+. So not a lot of variance between here. The only reason why perhaps I'm pinging them with the actual grade is just the age of Mac and Joey. But other than that, I think this is a really solid group. I think they're going to be asked to defend the run a little bit more than perhaps what they were last year. I'm not a huge fan of seeing them drop out into coverage, and I never was a fan of seeing Joey sort of drop out into coverage and Mac drop into coverage. Maybe they will be asked to do that, but perhaps it won't be so open as it was sometimes last year, and it just looked wrong. But I really think that given the weakness of the defensive line group, the potential for the potential grade for the defensive line is very much reliant on the edge group doing their job. And I think that's going to be early downs, is going to be run stuffing, is going to be is really sort of setting those edges and making sure that there's no bursts out wide. But in later downs, I think you can start to unleash Tully, you can start to unleash Dupree, start to unleash Mac and Bosa in stunts and twists. Because my God, if you lined up, Tully, Dupree, Mac, and Bosa on a 3rd and 11, I'm not sure what you're doing. I'm not sure what you're doing as an opposition. But man, that'd be fun to see, wouldn't it? So, potential A, I think it's there. Actual B+. This is a solid group. But for a couple of the reasons I said, I'm pinging them a little bit. All right, let's move to the line backing room. We've got Henley. We've got Coulson, who I think is just an absolute weapon, and I can't wait to see play. We've got Perryman's back in the building. Gatorade is back in the building. We've got the athletic Neiman. And then we've got Troy Dye, who's, apparently still sitting on the roster here per PFF. And then you got Jeremiah Jean-Baptiste, who was all sitting there too. So, Perryman comes back, Thumper, apparently meant to have had a good year at Houston last year, but, PFF still has him ranked 71st out of 82. I think he brings a hardness. I think he brings a downhill running ability to thump, to thump on in those A and B gaps. I don't think he brings much lateral movement. He brings leadership, which I think the room needs drastically. But again, I don't think he's solid. He'll be fine, but teams can pick on him if they want to early downs. I don't think he's going to be a 3-down linebacker. I would suggest that he's on the field for the first down, second down, and depending on the situation, maybe third down. But I don't think he's a 3-down linebacker, and I don't think he's been signed for that either. I think he's been signed for some intangibles, the leadership, etc. What I'm super excited in seeing is where Henley and Coulson line up and how they play together. Essentially, we're looking at unproven guys, right? Even though Henley, we've seen in bits, he hardly had a role last year, and that to me just is still bizarre. It was bizarre then when I noted it. It's bizarre now. This guy is one of the most athletic people I can remember in the preseason watching, flying around. He was everywhere. Yes, he was a little late to things, and his reading of the game needs to improve. But he's a rookie, right? He needed time to improve on that. And I really don't know why later in the season we didn't. I don't know why we kept going with Kendricks, and he who shall not be named but has gone to Tennessee, Kenneth Murray. So when I look at this group, I'm not filled with, when I look at it actually, I'm not filled with confidence. But when I look at the potential, I think there is solid potential there. I don't think it's in the A range. I definitely don't think it's in the A range. I think it's probably B at best. I think if Denzel Perryman can do his job, if Diane Henley and Coulson can take the leap, we still don't know how Coulson's going to act. Yes, he knows the scheme. I know that. And he seems to be, he's calling out troops. He's calling out this. He's communicating, et cetera, et cetera. It's the NFL, man. It's not college. So I just have to temper my expectations here. So I think potential grade is a B, nothing more than a B. I don't think it's B+. B+, you're looking at anywhere between 10 and 15, like 10 and 13 ranked position group in the NFL. I think it's in that 15 to 22, 15 to in that middle range, B. The actual rating that I've got them right now on paper, I think has to be a C, right? I think has to be a C. We know what Perryman is, which is fine, but he's going to be 32. We know what Troy Dye, we know what Nick Neiman are. We don't know what Junior Coulson is, and we don't really know what Diane Henley is. So I think when you look at that, I think it's just the actual grade right now is somewhere sitting in that 22, 23 to 30 to 32 range. I think it's definitely in the lower quartile, I think, of the league. If we're being honest with ourselves, I think that's where they sit. So overall, actual grade for the linebacker group is a C. Potential, I think, is a B, but I don't think it's anything more than that. If it is, awesome, but I think B is their potential. And I think they're going to have to be doing a lot of work given how leaky the interior of the line might be early on. Righty Roo, we're almost there. 38 minutes in. Okay, this is weird talking into a vacuum, but I hope you're enjoying it. Let me know if you're not, because I won't do it again. All right, let's look at this cornerback group. So we've got our man ASJ sitting there. We've got Jarcia Taylor. We've got Leonard still sitting there. We've got Fulton. We've got Still. We've got Cam Hart. Then we round out the group with Walton, Harper, Wilcox, Hankins, who are still sitting there. Listen, PFF PFF loves Asante Samuel Jr. They have him ranked 28th out of 127 CBs for his performance last season. And they do. They really love him for some reason. He just must be a metrics darling for the PFF. I think most of us might disagree with some of the ratings that ASJ gets by an eye test. But overall, he's probably the strongest of the cornerback room right now. Who knows what Jarcia Taylor's going to do? We know, Leonard has had his injury issues, should I say? And Christian Fulton signed, didn't have a good year last year. I think he's just another body. Who knows what Still and Hart are going to be as well? We sort of don't really know what they're going to be. They're probably more development players than they are than they are sort of come in and make a really strong showing. But, you know, they've been drafted for a reason. Maybe they fit in Minter's defense. But realistically, when we're looking at this group, I think potential grade, I think their potential is a B-. Realistically, I don't think they're anything better than that. I think that they're going to struggle against some bigger receivers. When I say bigger, I mean the top receivers. You know, we have to play Devontae Adams twice. I think he might have a field day against this cornerback group. And when I look at the actual grading of this group, I think I'm going to have to give them a D+ again. I just look at it and go, geez, there's kind of holes everywhere. And the holes that are there are going to be relied on rookies or pretty much, you know, average players to fill. Now, let's not discount Minter's scheme here. Let's not discount finding these niches for these guys. Let's not discount the coaching and the development that hopefully some of these guys can benefit from. They've gone out and gotten a guy like Christian Fulton for a reason. They must have seen something in him. They must have looked at his game and said, "Yep, he can fit with us. I think I can make him into a player." But based on what we know, based on what we see right now, I think the actual grading of this group is a D+. I think it's below average, if anything, and I think it's probably kind of sitting in the bottom 4 of the league. If I'm being honest, that's harsh maybe, but I think I have to be fair here. Potential grade, B-. So there's a lot of distance that perhaps they need to come up. And I think that can be bridged by Minter's scheme. But also when you look at potential, there's got to be the players available to fill that potential. And I just don't think the caliber of player is there. That might be being harsh right now. It could be, you know, halfway through the year, we don't know. Cam Hart might come on, Still might come on, Ja'Seer Taylor might be doing but potentially I can't see that just at the moment. So I think potential grade is a B-. If they can get to that B level, I think they're doing a great job. All right, last group. I'm not doing special teams, by the way. We're just going to look at the sort of the offense and the defense. Is our safety room. This is, I think, a really good group. One of our stronger groups. We've got DJ, we've got Alohi, and recently added Tony Jefferson. That changes things a little bit for me. You've still got JT Woods, drafted for Staley's scheme, drafted as DB school, whatever. Who knows where he's going to sit? The guy's fast, but he's so light. I really worry his frame, but maybe he can be played on the back end as that wiry roving, safety. I'm betting that Derwin James is going to be more of that strong safety closer to the line. I really do. I think they're going to want his aggressiveness on early downs in the run game, which I love to see. I think that's where Derwin thrives. I don't think Derwin thrives when he's being asked to be a Swiss Army knife. I think that's the major misstep that a lot of coaches have said, that he's so good, he can do everything, so we're going to get him to do everything. And I think when you try and do everything, you become a jack of all trades, master of none. So I think Derwin just needs to focus on 1 or 2 or 3 things really well, and that's it. I don't think he needs the green dot. I think he just needs to focus on becoming the best strong safety in the NFL, or regaining, should I say, that number 1 safety. I think he's a player that teams are scared of. Last year under Staley and the couple of years he was giving away penalties, he was trying to be the enforcer. It just wasn't working. I think Derwin, just focus on who you want to be, focus on the small things, execute those small things, and you will be a top 3 safety in the NFL. Gilman, I think we'll just go strength to strength to strength. I'm glad he's sticking around. I really loved his game. I think he's grown ever since that pick against the Bengals. Was it the Bengals? No, the Cleveland Browns in the end zone to ice the game. I've loved watching him play. He's really grown into his role. Smart, can read the game. Not the most athletic, not necessarily the biggest guy, but I still think I think he's got something. Now, Tony Jefferson, DJ wanted him. He's just like, sign this guy, sign this guy. I don't think he's going to be as effective, as he was in his heyday. He's going to be close to 33 years old. But if you can get 6 to 8 really good games out of him where he's serviceable, he knows the defense, He can read the game really well. And if he's got Derwin up front being the bash crash guy, I think Tony Jefferson can be that patrolling on the back end and allow Derwin to do his thing. Same with Alohi Gilman. Those players need to allow Derwin to do his thing. Okay, Derwin shouldn't try and do everything. The supporting cast around him should allow Derwin to do his thing. Finley, Dent, Phillips, Kennedy, and Woods, they're all backups. I think Jefferson is a good body to have as an experienced body. I think he can teach Gilman a lot, and I think he can also teach Derwin James a bit too, whilst at the same time allowing Derwin to do his job. So, the potential for this group, and now Alohi was ranked 7th per PFF, and I think he had a great year. Derwin James 71st. That's not a true ranking, I don't think. I think the potential for this group is to be one of the best safety groups in the NFL, bar injury. So I'm going to say A. I'm going to say this is going to be a top 8 to 10 safety group in the NFL. Actual grade right now, I still think it's pretty high. The actual grade, I think, is probably a B+, because the Jefferson one is an unknown. We know Derwin is really strong. We know Alohi Gilman is played well last year, at least. Previous years to that, perhaps not so much. But this is a strong group. But the unknown in Jefferson, and who knows what JT Woods, and we're an injury away from Gilman to having Jefferson play most snaps, and Jefferson being older, we can't count on him being the guy all the time. So it'll be super interesting to see who rotates through the backfield and what kind of packages Minter deploys, whether we're going to be looking at 2 high safety looks, single high safety, having Derwin close to the line, whether we're going to be going, looking at sort of zone like 3 high, who knows. But I think actual grade, I think, is a B+ for those reasons, just because there's a little bit of a depth issue there. So that does it. Wow. We've gotten to the end of the potential versus actual grading done by the TDU Jack. Just to recap, and I'd love people to comment or have a think about, my grades. Are they right? Is my reasoning right? Is it wrong? I'm sure some of it is for some of you, but obviously always remain respectful. I do this because I love doing it, and I love hearing people's opinions. So if I've said something that really sticks out to you, you go, oh no, I don't think that's right, please let me know, and I'd love to have a chat with you in the comments or on Stormcloud. So let's just go through this again. Starting with the offense, quarterback group, Justin Herbert, potential grade A+. The actual grade is an A. Not a lot of distance there. I think we know what Justin Herbert's going to do. He's going to come out. I think he's going to have a very good year. I've put some money on him to win MVP. Wide receiver group. I think the potential in this wide receiver group is a B+. I still don't think it's A. I might be being a bit harsh, but that's just me. The actual grading of this wide receiver group is a C. I think it's league average or just below league average there, just by what's on paper at the moment. The running back room, again, is a B+ for potential. The actual grade at the moment is a C+. I guess what you're looking for here is just looking for the big differences in the actual versus the potential grade, because that's where probably a lot of work is going to have to be done. Tight end room, I think the potential is going to be a B, given the help in the run game. I can't see too much receiving potential personally. I might be proven wrong, but the actual grade at the moment is a D+. I think that's one of the weaker groups on paper right now. The offensive line, we've got our second A+ potential. At the moment, I think it's a B. Just given the shifting and just given the slight unknown in Joe Alt, as I said, my reasoning, I think he's going to be pretty strong, but we just don't know what's happening on the interior with Bozeman and if Pipkins is going to perform. But the potential is there because it's such a deep group. I think this could be a top 5 offensive line by the end of the year. Defensive line, potential grade is a C. Actual grade is a D. Okay, so I think that's probably the weakest positional group that we have right now. Edge group, potential for an A. There are several reasons why it's not an A+, and I said those, but I'd be interested to see if people do put them as an A+. Actual grade right now, B+. We just don't know how Dupree's going to fit in, and I think we just got to see what one more year on both of those older bodies in Mack and Bosa looks like. The linebacker group, I think, has a potential grade of a B, but at the moment, I think it's probably more of a C. In terms of the cornerback room, B- I think is the tops. I don't think there's going to be anything more than that. Actual grade, when I look at it, probably a D+. I might be being a bit harsh there. Let me know. Last group, which is the safeties. Potential grade I have as an A. Actual grade I think is pretty close to a B+. I think that's one of the stronger positional groups in our team as well. So overall, I'll put those in the comments in YouTube and so people can look at them. Overall, that's me. So thank you so much for tuning in for this sort of 50-minute. Something different, a little bit different, just where I guess at TDU, we're trying to do different things all the time. We're sort of trying to push ourselves with different kind of content. I know that a lot of listeners have been asking for more content, and sometimes getting the three of us together is a bit challenging, being, new dads, Andy and I, and things. So, we're just trying to find different ways of doing things. If you really enjoyed it, let me know. If you want it a bit shorter, let me know. But I'd like to be doing one or two, like one of these every couple of weeks, where it's just me and my thoughts, kind of like an article that you might see on Stormcloud. Put it on in the background, have a think, tune in, tune out. Hopefully my voice isn't too annoying when it's just me. But overall, I really enjoyed doing this, guys. And as always, we really appreciate your love and support. This is such a fun thing to do. Shout out to Andy and Alistair. Hope you're having good Sundays. And we will be back very soon with our next episode of Guest Series. We could be back as soon as next week. If not, there might be some other content right around the corner for you to wrap your ears around. That's it from me. Goodbye. Longest outro ever. I'm not very good at these. Andy's far better at it than doing than I am. Love you all. Respect you all. Go Bolts. Bolt up. Who's got it better than us? Nobody.
Backpedals looking, firing. He's got Floyd turning. Got it! Zigzag 10.